What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a banger of a video. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and also make sure to go follow me on Instagram. Listen, I just got a bunch of new bongs, and we're going to be posting a lot of rip videos, so go hit me up on Instagram. Make sure you follow me. Instagram's banned me 10 million times at this point, but we're on the 10 million and one to count, so let's pray this is the one. But real quick, before we dive into the video, let's take a moment to talk about our friends at MyBookie. Winning season has officially returned, and with the NFL preseason, there's plenty of opportunities to win at MyBookie. Whether you're a seasoned bettor or a first-timer, MyBookie gets you the most for your money with a double deposit bonus of up to $1,000. All you got to do is sign up using promo code GOBLIN on your first deposit, and you'll instantly double that deposit. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Big shout out to them. Now let's dive into the video. So this took place back in my junior year of high school, and there's quite a lot of stories from this era of my life. Mainly because my junior year, I really didn't care about anything. I had no fear, I knew very little about drugs, which contributed to me having no fear, and all I wanted to do all day was get zooted. And I had, gone through a little bit of a Xanax phase during the early stages of my junior year. It was the first semester, I was kind of wilding out a little bit. And at this point, I hadn't done a lot of the drugs that I now talk about on this channel. I still hadn't done coke, I'd never tried acid at this point, or shrooms. The only drugs that I'd done at this point is weed, obviously getting drunk, and Xanax was my newfound craze. Xanax was what I like to call my first real drug, Alcohol, call it a drug, whatever, dude. Suck it up and take a shot, all right? Weed, if you call it a drug, you're offending me, all right? Just let me be an addict in peace, all right? It's only mental. But Xanax is the first drug that I did where I was like, I kind of feel a little grimy now, I almost felt guilty when I would take it, but, it was worth it at the time to me. Now, on this particular day, I had to go over to my grandma's house for the entire weekend. I was no longer allowed to be home alone while my mom was out of town for more than one night. The reason for that is because prior to this, my mom had gone out of town for my great-grandma's funeral, and I thought it would be a really good idea to throw a party. So I invited a bunch of people over, disregarded the Ring camera and all those goodies, and got absolutely fucked for it. I mean, she found out immediately. The house was trashed. We were smoking in it. Listen, it was a mess, all right? But ever since that day, I was no longer allowed to be home alone when she would go out of town. It didn't matter how long she would be going. If she was gone overnight, I'm going to grandma's, right? Now, I was ready to go to grandma's. I had a bit of a party kit already packed up and ready to go. I had packed some clothes in a duffel bag for the weekend. I'd packed up a little bit of weed. I'd even pre-rolled some blunts for this weekend. On top of that, I brought a very fair amount of Xanax over. Now, at this point, I wasn't super hard into it. I wasn't at the point, that I was taking so many bars a day that I was just constantly barred out. But it was a daily thing for me. It was something where if I didn't have a bar, I would be pretty irritable. And the only way I would deal with it without getting more would just be to smoke a ludicrous amount of mid. That was the only other option I had. At least at the time. I mean, we're doing a little better now. But back then, it was rough, boys. So I pack up my stuff in my duffel bag and I hop in my car and drive over to my grandma's house, who conveniently only lives 15 minutes from my mom's house. So a very clutch setup here. Now, some of you guys may have seen a few videos that my grandma was a part of, but a lot of you probably haven't, so I'll give you guys a bit of a rundown. My grandma is not the kind of grandma who's baking cookies and, sitting by the fire with you and reading you a story, My grandma is borderline insane. You see, she really likes to stir the pot, and I think she has some undiagnosed early onset dementia that we're just not talking about as a family. On top of that, she's like the polar opposite of what you picture from a normal grandma. Normally you picture grandma making, baking something or doing some knitting or something. My grandma, she made a pumpkin pie one year, and it was gray. I've never seen a pumpkin pie that was gray before. In fact, I've never seen a pumpkin pie that wasn't orange, but she somehow pulled it off. If that doesn't give you a good enough idea of her cooking, I could go on for the rest of this video about it, but that's not the point. The point is my grandma's house is not somewhere that I wanted to be, so bringing Xanax was a necessity because it was a nightmare over there. On top of all of those issues, which I mean they aren't that bad, I might be making her sound like a demon. She's a nice woman. I love my grandmother, but like listen, she's not a typical grandmother. She's very strict. And on top of that, whenever I go over there, I kind of have to act as her like IT support for literally every electronic in the house, dude. Like it's not just, oh, can you help me with my laptop? Dude, the stove, doesn't matter. If it plugs into a wall, she thinks I can fix it. I don't know why, but I can't. But either way, I go over to my grandma's house, I drive on over, and I'm supposed to be here until Sunday night, mind you. It's Friday night at this point, so I've got 2 whole days at my grandma's. I get over there, I say hi to my grandma, I'm chilling, and I get into the guest room and start unpacking my stuff. Now, already, I was getting ready to smoke because I knew that this was going to be a long weekend. I had only brought like an eighth of flour with me, but I was going to make that shit stretch. I also brought a fair bit of Xans. I don't remember the exact number, but I would say it was probably more than 5 and less than 10. So, I don't know, somewhere in that ballpark. But enough for me at the time to be settled. By the way, these were ladders. So these were the 2 milligram white boys, right? These were not the buses. These were not little footballs or anything. These were some nice little ladders. So, I mean, I figured that was more than enough to make it through the weekend. You know, I mean, for my consumption rate at the time, I would have to get pretty aggressively barred out to take that many in the span of 2 days. So I get over to my grandma's house and I unpack my stuff. As I mentioned earlier, I had already rolled up some blunts, so I was pretty ready to go. I told my grandma that I was going to go for a walk, you know, the classic quote-unquote walk, which for some reason she still fell for. At this point, my grandma was well aware of my drug use. My mom did not try to hide it. My entire family knew. I had already been caught with weed before. I don't think at this point my mom was very hip to the Xanax thing, but they knew that I was not sober. And my grandma especially knew that. So she was like a hawk. She was like a detective. Now, I kind of forgot that she was like a detective, so I didn't put much effort into hiding my Xanax. I just put them in the nightstand. I unloaded some of my clothes in a drawer and just buried my Xanax at the bottom of the pile of clothes, and I thought nothing of it. Now, after that, I told my grandma I was going for a walk, and I brought my classic pack of Swishers and my lighter, and I headed out to go smoke. Now, everything's fine and dandy. I'm taking my jolly time. In fact, I didn't even start smoking for a good 10 or 15 minutes because I was just strolling around. It was a super nice evening, clear skies, the sun was still up a little bit, and it was a vibe, boys. I mean, it was fantastic. So I was taking a nice little walk around the neighborhood, having the time of my life. Now, I spark up this blunt and I smoke and everything's going great, I figure I might have a nice evening ahead of me. Maybe I'll get back to my grandma's, watch some YouTube videos on my phone. I didn't bring a computer or anything because I didn't want to lug my whole PC over there. So all I really had to do was smoke weed, take Xanax, and play with my phone. So that was my exact plan. I was smoking my blunt and I was chilling out, and all of a sudden my mom calls me. No, I didn't notice the first call. I didn't even have my phone out. But she called me again after I missed the first one, and that's when I noticed my phone going off. Now, I'm not a big call answerer, so if you want me to pick up, you really gotta bomb my shit, because I don't really care what you have to say. I don't want to talk, alright? I'm busy, I'm getting stoned. But I got 2 calls back to back, and that caught my attention. So I busted out my phone and my mom's calling me. Now, my mom doesn't normally call me unless it's something that's not very good. She's a texter, so already I knew that this was not going to be good. But I still didn't expect it to be this. I was figuring maybe, her car broke down or something, or I don't know, maybe she came back home to grab some shit and found some more weed or something. I don't know. I didn't know what to expect. So I answer the phone, and the first thing she says to me, not even a hello, not even a hi, son, she goes, "Where are you?" No, I'm like, I'm taking a walk. Why? I'm not that far away from grandma's house. What do you mean? Now, I realized immediately once she asked where I was that this was not good. She tells me that I need to get back to my grandma's house immediately, and I ask her why, and this is when shit hits the fan. She asked me, she's like, what the hell did you have in the nightstand in your room? Now, I freeze up immediately. I know exactly what was in that nightstand. I didn't take any bars yet. I was level-headed enough. I knew exactly what had gone down. While I was gone, my grandma went in and searched my shit immediately. I'm not surprised, and I definitely learned from this incident, but at the time, I couldn't believe that she was on my ass that quickly. I hadn't even been there for an hour, and she was already in my shit. So my mom says that, and I'm like, I'm playing stupid at this point, because I don't have time to think of a proper excuse. So I'm just like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I have no idea. I'm playing dumb. So she just goes off. She's like, I can't believe you'd bring this shit over there. Get your ass back to my grandmother's house. You're grounded. When you get back, she's taking your shit. She's taking your phone. And as soon as she says that, my little delinquent ass just hung up, dude. All right, listen. Nowadays, if my mom was yelling at me on the phone, I'd probably be much more concerned about it. But when I was 17, I didn't care very much. So I just hung up. Now, I realized pretty quickly that I'm not going back to grandma's house, which raises quite a few problems. 1, all of my clothing is at grandma's house. 2, my Xanax is at grandma's house. Granted, it was probably disposed of by now. 3, my car and the keys for it are still at grandma's house. I didn't bring my car keys out. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think I would need them. So now I'm standing here maybe 10 minutes away from my grandma's crib. At this point, I'm walking by a grocery store. I'm walking by a Jewel Osco. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out what to do. I can go back to my mom's house and maybe just pick up some clothes and go crash somewhere for the weekend, but I didn't even know where to stay. I didn't know what to do. And also, I was too far from my mom's house to just walk back there and grab shit. I would have to get an Uber. Now, at this stage in my life, I didn't have Uber money, but I had a trick, which was making a new account and accepting the $20 ride discount with no minimum purchase. If you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say about that. But that even included the tip. Like, if you took a $12 Uber, you could tip the guy $8 and it would all be free. That was the sauce back in the day, all right? Listen, they got rid of that promo for a damn good reason, but come on, just bring it back for the one time. But either way, I'm now standing in front of a grocery store with no car, no keys to my car, a very small amount of weed left. I had one more blunt in the pack that I brought out, luckily, and my phone. I didn't even have a charger. So I have a limited amount of time to figure out what I'm doing, or it's game over, dude. I landed on the go to jail, do not pass go, do not collect $200. So I'm trying to think quick. I'm on my phone hitting up everyone I can think of. And finally, Cody comes to the rescue. He's the first one to answer. He's like, yo, I tell him immediately. I'm like, listen, dude, can I just come crash at your place for the night? At this point, it was pretty normal. I would hit him up more often than not, asking if I could spend the night there. I mean, if I couldn't go back home, whether I was in trouble or for whatever reason, I would go to Cody's house and sleep on the couch in his garage. It was perfect. So, of course, him being the homie, he's like, yeah, come through, come on over. So, I realize now that I have another problem, which is getting to Cody's house. I wanted to get an Uber, but the issue was my phone was fairly low on battery at this point. I knew the area well enough to walk to Cody's house, but it was a long walk. And I'm not walking through like a neighborhood where it's chill. I'm walking alongside a very main road where there's not even a sidewalk alongside it. So I'm just walking through the grass and the mud on the shoulder. It was a horrible experience. Now, my mom calls me again as I'm walking, and I airball that shit. You could catch me dead before you catch me answering the phone at this point. No chance at all of that happening. Now, I walk for probably a good, hour, I'd say. Maybe a little longer. I don't remember the exact amount of time, but I remember that when I first left the house to smoke, the sun was still up. It was getting late, but the sun was still up. By the time I made it to Cody's, it was dark out. So, I mean, this was a hike, I'll tell you what. This was a mission. But finally, I made it over to Cody's house. It wasn't such a nice day anymore. I was very sweaty, and I was pissed off, and I had a small amount of weed and an even smaller amount of money. But you know what? what? We were going to make it work. Now, I got over to Cody's house and I kind of explained the situation. I'm like, listen, dude, half of my loot is at Grandma's house, but Grandma found my Xans and she'll probably hit me over the head with like a baking sheet if I come back. So we got to do some shit for the weekend until she forgets about it in 2 days because of the early onset dementia. So we're plotting. We're like, yeah, I mean, you could stay here if you want. Shout out to Cody for clutching up because that's exactly what I did. I just crashed at his place for the weekend. Now, the following day, my mom hit me up again. She called me, and I didn't answer, so she texted me, and she's like, where the hell are you? And at that point, I answered her, because I didn't necessarily want her to think I was dead or missing, but I also did not want to go back to Grandma's house and collect my Xanax, which was probably not there anymore. I mean, to this day, I don't really know what happened to it, but I think it's safe to assume it was probably disposed of. Maybe she popped some of them bitches. Who knows? I hope she got lit. Either way, back on topic here. So I explained to my mom, I'm like, yeah, I'm just staying with a friend right now, don't worry about it. I'll be back home on Sunday. Now, I still have the issue of my car being at Grandma's house. It's not like Grandma has a normal schedule, like, oh, she's going to work, she's retired, okay? She has no schedule. She doesn't do shit. There is no routine that she's on. So I am at this point just playing the guessing game, trying to figure out when to go get my car. Saturday at Cody's house is pretty chill. I had a little bit of money, so I bought some weed. Not much happened. Sunday. Now, this was the day where I told my mom I was going to be home. And I felt that I kind of had to be home Sunday night, because if I didn't come home Sunday night, my mom was going to be truly fucking pissed. The problem was my car. Very big issue here. Very big issue here. Now, I was able to Uber back to my grandma's house because I was able to charge my phone, so everything was good to go. But when I got back to my grandma's house, I had realized that it was kind of early in the evening still. The lights were definitely on in there, and I didn't really plan anything at all. I just kind of mindlessly called an Uber and went for it. So that's exactly what I did. I got dropped off, and I just walked right up to the door. I already knew how to get into her house, so I got in, and I went straight to my room, grabbed my duffel, grabbed my car keys, and dipped the fuck out of there. Now, yes, when I was grabbing my clothes, I did look for the Xanax, and they were not there. However, maybe she popped them. You know what? I like to hold that mental image in my head. You know, that's how I like to view this situation. Maybe she just ate those little fuckers and forgot, you know? Because when I walked in, she didn't say shit. See, my grandma's always been very passive-aggressive. It kind of runs in the family, you know? When I'm in trouble, it's not like my parents will just come bang my door down, right? Sometimes they will if it's really bad, but most of the time they're cold and calculated with it, you know? They plan it out. They look at you from afar. They give you a mean mug. That's how my family operates when it comes to this kind of shit. So she didn't say a word to me, and I didn't say a word to her. I grabbed my clothes, grabbed my keys, hopped in the car, and skedaddled. And I went back home to my mom there waiting for me. Now, I was under the impression that she was going to be home later in the evening, but I guess she came home early specifically to chew me out for this one, and that she did. We got in like a 2-hour-long argument where it was just back and forth. She's like, when are you going to stop this shit? I can't believe you did that shit at your grandmother's house. In fact, I think this was one of her earliest mentions of me going to rehab, before I had even actually gone to rehab, way before. This was way before any of that stuff. But I don't remember her talking about rehab anytime prior to this, but I really remember her being like, you know, maybe you need rehab. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what do you mean, Mom? I just smoke weed and take Xans, and look at me. Within a year later, I had smoked crack, so maybe she was right. But either way, I got the chewing out of a lifetime, and I never knew where my Xanax went. Maybe if it got disposed of, at least a raccoon got in the garbage and ate that shit and got lit for like a week. But I mean, I don't know. I just hope it went to someone who deserved it, okay? I hope those bars went to someone who needed them. But either way, that's my video for the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Drop a like if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And also, don't forget to follow my Instagram linked in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, gamers.